The Dollhouse Part 2 is almost more fun to run than the Dollhouse Part 1, mostly because I had a new group this time around, and I figured maybe with a group of adventurers they would be more inclined to actually explore deeper into the dollhouse, which they did. One of the first rooms they came to had a series of display cases, 13 in total. Each one was made of a hard wood. To be specific, it was made out of ironwood. At the top of it was a box made of tempered glass that was about 2 inches thick, and each glass case that was sitting on top was also in an iron cage. Inside of each of these display cases was a very well-crafted masterwork doll. The group, of course, saw these as treasures. So the rogue steps up and tries to pick the lock. He rolls, fails, rolls again, fails, rolls again, fails. At which point, after the third fail, he begins going, "Will it take 20 do it?" I told him, "You have to try." So he takes 20 and succeeds at the first lock on one of the 13 containers. However, they also find out in doing so that they have magic wards on them to further protect the treasures inside from being taken. So what came down to it was each box had 3 locks that he was taking 20 on, plus the wizard was casting Dispel Magic on top of it to bypass the arcane locks, and also using the Open-Close spell to further get within the boxes. After some dickering around with numbers and crunching things together, they figured out that it would take roughly 20 hours to open all 13 boxes with the collected efforts of the sorcerer and the rogue. To my chagrin, they did. This gave the guardian of the dollhouse plenty of time to set up all of the traps and get everything ready for the group of adventurers that had invaded his home. So the group collects the dolls and they continue on with their adventure. They go through most of the rooms with very little trouble at all, dispatching the tiny automatons that were there to dissuade any invaders from encroaching further within the compound. However, they get to a door on the upper level and they hear a strange noise, a whir, click kind of noise. Most of them are not exactly sure what's going on. The rogue, again, being one of the more important members of the party, decided that he was going to take the lead and look through the keyhole. Fair enough. He looks through the keyhole and he sees a great mechanical monster on the other side. Different strange chemicals floating in weird glass tubes attached to it, metallic limbs, a flesh-like skin. The player didn't quite get my description, so he does this crazy-ass thing that I was not expecting. He had taken a feat which gave him a lesser form of bardic knowledge, to which he wanted to roll to see if he recognized what the creature was. He rolled really great, so I let him have at the Dungeon Master's book that I was holding, flipped it to a page, and said, "You have 30 seconds." The look on his face was priceless as he realized what was on the other side of the door. In that 30 seconds, he ascertained that there was no way a group of level 3s could ever possibly have a chance against this creature. He turns around, throws his hands in the air. "Frell it," he says. "I'm out of here. It's not worth it." He begins descending down the stairway, leaving everybody else standing up top wondering what the hell he just saw. He didn't care anymore, and he just starts walking towards the door. Eventually, the rest of the party also breaks rank and begins walking towards the door. After they leave the dollhouse, they all hop back in the boat and start heading back to town. One of the other players inquires, "What the hell was that?" The rogue is like, "I'm not sure, but if my instincts are correct, that's an alchemical golem." Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the setting, the players are level 3, and an alchemical golem is a challenge rating 7, which means it should provide an adequate challenge for a group of level 7 players, at least 4. The rest of the party gives a communal sigh of relief at the rogue's quick thinking to just leave the damn dungeon. At which point, I also gave the characters a perception check. One of them also would have recognized the golem if he had taken the chance to look at it, was actually an alchemist in the party. He made his perception check, and he turns around and he sees a pint-sized thing in the moonlight, cheering and dancing on top of one of the turrets. The dollhouse had just defeated a group of level 3 player characters with an animated construct golem, the castle's caretaker and lone sentinel, who was only a level 3 sorcerer awakened construct using illusion spells. What nobody had realized, what was on the other side of the door was nothing more than an illusion backed up with ghost sound. But the story doesn't end there. The group still got away with their treasure, at least. Or so they thought. After examining the 13 dolls that they had collected, they came to find that the dolls had magical properties themselves, and some of them were rather beneficial. So they decided to experiment with one of the dolls. which would quench the thirst of a thirsty traveler, which would be great for the desert. Unfortunately, they were exploring right now, deep in the mountains during the early winter months. This means that at nighttime it would dip down to easily the high 20s to early 30s in temperature. This particular doll that they activated was, in essence, a decanter of endless water. It would just barf up water. Then they found out it had no off switch. So the decanter of endless water would continually just spill water forward, never stopping. They could not find a way to get rid of the water flow to stop. So they did what players do naturally. They waited for a good opportunity and threw it over the side of a cliff. Then the paladin, of all people, who had activated the doll, realized the next morning when he woke up in a half-frozen slush puddle within his tent, with the doll resting beside him, that these dolls that they had gathered were indeed cursed. There was a communal aha moment as they finally figured out why the dolls were so well guarded within their cases.